1. A single phone call is enough to drain every ounce of your spirit and strength. 2. The most suffocating kind of family isn't one where parents constantly oppress you. It's one that suffocates you while still making you feel loved. In that moment, an intense sense of guilt rises up inside you, a feeling like wearing a cotton coat soaked in water. Putting it on, you're cold. Taking it off, you're cold too. 3. There used to be a teacher couple at our school. They beat their son half to death, yet his grades stayed excellent, and the teachers often held him up to us as the textbook example of a spare the rod, spoil the child. The father's most famous incident happened during a self-study period. His son walked in and said he had finished memorizing everything he needed to, and asked if he could play on the computer for a little while. The father kicked his son to his knees right there in front of the entire class, made him kneel and recite the whole lesson over again, and then told him to get lost. The mother's most famous incident happened during a class. She marched in and asked her son whether it was true that his aunt, another teacher at the school, had caught him reading comics. Her son didn't say a word. She lifted his desk and hurled it at him, then dragged him out into the hallway and beat him, demanding he hand over the comics while she hit him. And yet, he still tested into a top university, and later went abroad on a national scholarship. His parents beamed with pride and bragged everywhere about their parenting method. Then, after graduation, the young man simply vanished. Whether he's still overseas or back in the country, his parents have no idea. They've been searching for years and have never found him. 4. My mother-in-law is thin, frail, and timid. She slaved away at home for years without a single word of complaint, and every neighbor and relative felt entitled to trample on her. Why? Because my hateful father-in-law, with his violent temper, had been beating her for decades, and everyone else simply piled on. My husband and I worked away from home. When we were dating, he never told me any of this. It wasn't until our wedding day, when we went back to his hometown for the banquet, that the old wretch had a few drinks, lost his mind, grabbed my mother-in-law by the hair and tried to beat her. My husband couldn't stop him, and the ring of onlookers just stood there laughing. Well, that temper of mine flared right up. I grabbed the old man by the hair, picked up a large porcelain bowl and smashed it straight into his head. Blood streamed down. One fight made my reputation. That same night I packed up my mother-in-law's things and took her back to the city with us. My husband wept and was grateful beyond words. My mother-in-law is 85 this year. She has lived with me for 30 years, and no one has ever dared be rough with her again. 5. The author Liu Junyan described it this way. The family of a poor person is, in essence, a mental asylum. A violent and incompetent father, a mother drowning in tears, children riddled with insecurity and anxiety, elders consumed by greed and selfishness, relatives standing around pointing fingers. A painfully accurate description. If you grew up inside a mental asylum, how could you possibly come out as a perfectly healthy human being? 6. A friend of mine once made this classic complaint in conversation. When I was little, my parents told me that everyone outside was a bad person, that they all wanted to take advantage of me, and that only my parents were truly good to me. After I grew up and started working, I realized 9 out of 10 storms in my life were gifts from my parents themselves. 7. A child raised in a good family doesn't even need to be told. They instinctively understand manners. At the very least, they are lively and lovable. Their smile carries the warmth of spring, and confidence is written into their very bones. A child from a terrible family is like a piece of rotten wood that has been gouged with a deep hole before anyone could ever begin to carve it. No matter how skillfully it is shaped and patched later, it can never return to the form it was meant to have. Something will always be missing. Everything you are dealing with today isn't your fault, and it isn't truly theirs either, yet they are the ones whose hands made it. You love, you hate, you tear yourself apart in pain, and in the end all you can do is lock yourself into a small private corner, wrapping yourself up tightly because you believe that's the only way nothing will ever wound you again. Whatever your family was like, whatever your life has been, whoever they turned out to be, none of it has anything to do with you anymore. Be kind to yourself, and live your own life well. 8. It can push a gentle, well-behaved girl into becoming a wayward one who smokes, drinks, and fights, and it can push a wild, rebellious girl into becoming a meek, vacant-eyed, plain little thing. Don't ask me how I know. 9. When I was little, information didn't travel the way it does now. One day a piece of news came out. A child who couldn't bear being beaten by their parents had taken their own life. My father turned to my mother and said, "From now on, stop hitting our kid, in case ours does the same thing too." 10. Do you know the most terrifying thing you discover as you grow up? You suddenly realize that you carry a few flaws that are exactly the same as your parents. You hated your mother's silence most of all. You hated the sarcastic, cutting edge in your father's voice most of all. And then, in some quiet moment with the person you love, you find yourself expressing things in exactly that same way. So in the end, a child will never grow into the shape you hope for. A child only knows how to imitate, and they grow into that shape instead. 11. Stepping into marriage, I felt happiness wash over me like a wave. I thought the two of us would hold each other's hands tightly and walk into the future together. But I never imagined I would be so wrong. That road, it seems, is one I'm now walking down all alone. You threw yourself into the world outside to take care of food, clothes, money, and bills. I quietly did my job, raised our child, and looked after our home. Day by day we drifted further apart, no longer understanding each other the way we once did. I had always believed marriage was a safe harbor of happiness. But then, because of your friends, because of your social circles, you sank into lavish pleasures and let our family slip out of your mind. And so we lost the connection we used to have, sharing the same house, yet living like strangers. What I received in return was your indifference and our fierce, bitter arguments. And yet, after everything, I still chose to stay. I still love you the same way I did at the beginning. I am still waiting for the day you turn around and see that our child and I have always been looking in your direction, waiting for you to come back into the arms of our family. You said you liked a wife who could cook well, so I tried hard to learn and prepare delicious meals for our family. You said you liked a wife who was attentive and took good care of the home, so I tried to arrange my time to work, raise our child, and keep the house clean all at once. 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years, or 10 years. I kept trying to hold this marriage together, always hoping that together we would build a happy, peaceful family. But perhaps I have hoped and asked for too much already. I love you, but I also love myself, my dear. What if we just let everything go? Let go of the resentment, the arguments, let go of the pain and wounds, and come back to where we started. Back to the time when we had just fallen in love, when you cared for me in that gentle way, and I smiled in pure happiness every time you picked me up. Why didn't we keep our love as steady as it was back then? Why must we insist on hurting each other instead? After all those happy months and years, I don't even know what is left inside us now. Or is there only tears and pain? Love isn't supposed to make us suffer this much. Perhaps it's only that we are putting each other through this misery ourselves. If we don't know how to treasure happiness itself, then what in this world is worth treasuring? I hope that one day you will look back and realize what we have lost. I am still here, still loving you, still waiting for you to come home, so that we can rebuild our love and the happiness of our family together. But if you still refuse to change, then perhaps I will have to learn how to love myself more and find my own new joys in this life.
This was Capricorn Psychology. Patient minds, ancient questions. Until the stars align again.